What we'll be doing today is a practice of recollection of Sila, Dana, and Deva. Meditation on virtues, meditation on generosity, and meditation on the deities. So it's not common that people talk about it, and I must confess that I read about it and I practice a little bit on my own, but in order to give a talk like this, I need to confirm certain practices. So I called up my teacher the other night, and then she explained certain things to me. But of course, we always like to reference the sutta, and sutta you can find it online. There's a lot of it, as well as commentary text. You have choices of different translators as well. So what we intend to do today, since we're going to do meditation, so perhaps we don't start with mindfulness practice first. We read the sutta, then after that we will practice. Okay, so I've structured the sharing like this. We will read the sutta together, but of course I'll be reading, and you can just follow my words on the screen. Mahanama Suttas. There are altogether 3 of them in the Anguttara Nikaya that describe these 6 recollections, so that we are reminded on what exactly was spoken, recorded through the history, and translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. So we go through this. Then after that, I will describe what was explained in Visuddhimagga, and then we will practice there and then. Okay. Okay, it's found in Anguttara 6:11. 11 has got 2 suttas that's devoted to this topic. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans at Kapila Wattu in the Banyan Tree Park. Then Mahanama the Sakyan approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said to the Blessed One, "Bhante, how does a noble disciple who has arrived at the fruit and understood the teaching often dwell?" Mahanama, a noble disciple who has arrived at the fruit and understood the teaching often dwells in this way. Number 1, here Mahanama, a noble disciple, recollects the Tathagata thus. The Blessed One is an arahant, perfectly enlightened and accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate, knower of the world, unsurpassed trainer of persons to be tamed, teacher of devas and humans, the enlightened one, the Blessed One. When a noble disciple recollects the Tathagata, on that occasion his mind is not obsessed by lust, hatred, or delusion. On that occasion his mind is simply straight, based on the Tathagata. A noble disciple whose mind is straight gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma. When he is joyful, rapture arises. For one with a rapturous mind, the body becomes tranquil. One tranquil in body feels pleasure. For one feeling pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. This is called a noble disciple who dwells in balance amid an unbalanced population, who dwells unafflicted amid an unafflicted population. As one who has entered the stream of the Dhamma, he develops recollection of the Buddha. Actually, I think I should make some comments here. You can see from this sutta, where this practice originated, it was a situation of Mahanama, who is a cousin of the Buddha, asking the Buddha how a noble disciple should dwell. So at that point in time, he is already a noble one. So what I understand is that Mahanama was already a stream enterer when he asked the Buddha this. So you can see how the Buddha explained as a noble disciple, because at that time the Buddha, the rains retreat is about now, it's about to end soon. So he's going on wandering away from Kapila Wattu. So Mahanama asks for advice. How should a noble disciple dwell? Okay, dwell meaning conduct yourself, about your day-to-day activities. And in this particular description of the Buddha-nusati, I explained a bit more because the next 5 are about the same at the second part. Okay, so what he said was, when the noble disciple recollect the Tathagata, on that occasion his mind is not obsessed by lust, hatred or delusion, the 3 poisons. But if you understand as a meditator, that includes all of the 5 hindrances. All the 5 hindrances are afflicted by these 3 poisons. And the mind becomes straight. And then this is important because it gives us some guide to how to position our mind when we are meditating. Okay? So it talks about inspiration. Okay? Inspiration is an emotion. It's not a theoretical understanding. You're inspired by the meaning of the quality of the Tathagata. In this case, the Buddha-nusati, which I explained a few months ago. Buddha-nusati is mindfulness on the quality of the Buddha, the meaning of the quality of the Buddha, gains inspiration the Dhamma, because the quality of Buddha is Dhamma. So we're inspired by the quality of the Buddha, inspired by Dhamma. Inspiration connotes faith, emotion, and gains joy connected with the Dhamma. By understanding and having inspiration from Dhamma, there is joy. Okay? There is liking. Joys come from liking. Joy is a neutral emotion, but connected with Dhamma, it is part of a wholesome set of mind. Okay? When he's joyful, rapture. Rapture, I don't exactly know what's the difference between rapture and joy, but since it's written here, maybe there's some subtle differences. Rapture, when one is raptured, the body becomes tranquil. Let us try later. When we have joy and rapture, does our body become tranquil? Okay. When the body becomes tranquil, the body feels pleasure. Okay. So there's a joy and rapture of the mind, and then the tranquility and pleasure of the body. Okay. For one feeling pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. So this is very interesting, because it tells us if you want to practice meditation, you should be happy. Okay, so happiness is an important proximate factor for concentration. Okay, this is called a noble disciple who dwells in balance amid an unbalanced population. Why is this here? I couldn't find it in the commentary text, so maybe I didn't search hard enough. But I suppose if you're an enlightened being in an unenlightened world, so you are a balanced mind amidst an unbalanced world, okay? And dwells unafflicted amid an afflicted population. As one who has entered the stream of Dhamma, he dwells develops the recollection of the Buddha. So I explain like this. The subsequent passages, I don't need to explain already, okay? Again, Mahanama, a noble disciple, recollects the Dhamma thus. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise. We just chanted this. When a noble disciple recollects the Dhamma, on that occasion, his mind is not obsessed by lust, hatred or delusion, suppression of the hindrances. On that occasion, his mind is simply straight, based on the Dhamma. A noble disciple whose mind is straight gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma. When he is joyful, rapture arises. For one with a rapturous mind, the body becomes tranquil. One tranquil in body feels pleasure. For one feeling pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. This is called a noble disciple who dwells in balance amid an unbalanced population, who dwells unafflicted amid an afflicted population. As one who has entered the stream of the Dhamma, he develops recollection of the Dhamma. Again, Mahanama, a noble disciple, recollects the Sangha thus. The Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is practicing the good way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way, that is, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. The rest is the same, so I shall not read through this. Number 4. Again, Mahanama. So we're going to practice this today. A noble disciple recollects his own virtuous behavior as unbroken, flawless, unblemished, unblotched, freeing, praised by the wise, ungrasped, leading to concentration. When a noble disciple recollects his virtuous behavior, on that occasion his mind is not obsessed by lust, hatred, or delusion. On that occasion, his mind is simply straight, based on virtuous behavior. And the rest is the same. Number 5. Again, Mahanama, a noble disciple recollects his own generosity. Thus, it is truly my good fortune and gain that in a population obsessed by the stain of miserliness, I dwell at home with a mind devoid of the stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. When a noble disciple recollects his generosity, on that occasion his mind is not obsessed by lust, hatred, or delusion. On that occasion his mind is simply straight, based on generosity. And the subsequent passages is the same. The importance of happiness in concentration. The last one, again, Mahanama. A noble disciple recollects the deities. Thus, there are Devas ruled by the 4 great kings. The Tawatingsa Devas, the Yama Devas, Tusita Devas, Devas who delight in creation, Devas who control what is created by others, Devas of Brahma's company, and Devas still higher than these. There exists in me too such faith as those deities possessed, because of which, when they passed away here, they were reborn there. There exists in me too such virtuous behavior, such learning, such generosity, such wisdom, as those deities possessed, because of which, when they passed away here, they were reborn there. So I'll read through this again. When a noble disciple recollects the faith, virtuous behavior, learning, generosity, and wisdom in himself and in those deities, on that occasion, his mind is not obsessed by lust, hatred, or delusion. On that occasion, his mind is simply straight, based on the deities. A noble disciple whose mind is straight gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains joy connected with the Dhamma. When he is joyful, rapture arises. For one with a rapturous mind, the body becomes tranquil. One tranquil in body feels pleasure. For one feeling pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. This is called a noble disciple who dwells in balance amid an unbalanced population, who dwells unafflicted amid an afflicted population, as one who has entered the stream of the Dhamma. He develops the recollection of deities. Mahanama, a noble disciple who has arrived at the fruit and understood the teaching, often dwells in just this way. So that concludes the Anguttara Nikaya from the chapter of the 6. But in the chapter of the 11, chapter 11, Sutta number 12, it ended differently. Mahanama, you should develop the recollection of the deities while walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. Similarly for Sila, Dana, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. You should develop it while engaged in work and while at home in a house full of children. Okay? And in Anguttara chapter 11 and Sutta number 11, it started slightly differently. Before describing the 6 recollections, the Buddha told Mahanama, a person with faith succeeds, not one without faith. An energetic person succeeds. One with mindfulness established succeeds. One who is concentrated succeeds. And one who is wise succeeds. Not one who is unwise. Having established yourself in these 5 qualities, you should further develop 6 things. What does these 5 qualities remind you of? The 5 spiritual faculties. Oh? So the inspiration I take from this is, before we practice the 6 recollection, we should balance our faculties. So later we'll practice a bit of anapanasati before we practice the mindfulness on Sila, and mindfulness on Dana, and mindfulness on Devas. Okay, now we shall practice. But before you practice, like if you take off the sutta and you practice like that, sometimes it's not so easy because it's not so clear. So let's hear from what Venerable Buddha Ghosha wrote. He was, as we know, born in around, I think, 6 centuries in India, and then he went to Sri Lanka, Mahavihara, and then he wrote this based on the collection of commentary text that was existing in Mahavihara in those days, but in Sinhalese. So how do we practice recollection of virtue? We go into a solitary retreat and recollect our own various kinds of virtues in their special quality of being unbroken, flawless, unblemished, unblotched, freeing, praised by the wise, ungrasped. So in Visuddhimagga, it also says, if you're a layperson, then you just recollect the virtue of a layperson, which is 5 precepts. So sometimes we also practice 8 precepts, so 8 precepts. Then if you are a monk or a nun, then it's different. So here we are all layperson, so we shall practice recollecting the purity of our 5 precepts. Okay? Unbroken, flawless, unblemished, unblotched. In the Visuddhimagga, it quoted commentary text, right? It says it is like a cloth. Unbroken means not torn, perfect. Flawless means not even any holes. Unblemished, that means it's very clean. Unblotched, unblemished and unblotched, it was described as the patterns of a cow, like a homogeneous brown or white cow, rather than those with patterns on their skin. So that's the analogy of our virtue being unblemished, flawless, and unblotched. Okay. So later when we practice, I would like all of you to remember Ajahn Brahm's very famous stories of the 2 bad bricks. So none of us is maybe there are some of you who are stream winner. Nobody is perfect, okay, in our virtues. But let us not focus on the bad bricks. Let's look at the whole integral wall. We have been keeping precepts, at least for a day, if not since we chanted the 5 precepts just now. In the last 1 hour, my precept is pure, okay? So that is also good. Otherwise, 1 week ago, 1 month ago, or for the last 1 year, or ever since I became a Buddhist, my precepts are pure. That's good enough. If we talk about breaking precepts, and in the Buddhist teachings, the samsara is beginningless, we have killed so many people, okay? So let's not talk about the past. So let us recall the whole integral wall as our precept. Okay, don't focus on the bad bricks because that is grasping. It says ungrasp. Okay, so non-grasping. Then we just recall like that. Okay, let's continue. Freeing because liberating from the slavery of craving. Okay, because precepts, there are so many things we want to do because of craving, but because of precept, we don't. We want to maybe eat a few hours of our parking app or last time parking coupons. Now you cannot cheat, but there are all these things, but then we don't because of the precept. Okay. Ungrasped, since they are not grasped with craving and false views, impossible to be misapprehended, there is this flaw in your virtues. So what does it mean? I suppose when a sotapanna become a sotapanna, that being no longer have a view of a solid self, okay, and many other wrong views are fallen as a result of that. So they do not grasp at. I can't interpret further than this. Okay, forgive me. So let's just take this phrase as it is. Conducive to access, absorption, path of fruition, concentration. So this recollection of our precepts inspires ourselves. The quality of precepts being untorn, our precept being untorn, unblemished, that is the Dhamma. We're practicing the Dhamma. And then based on that, I hope you'll be happy with that, with wisdom. Untorn and flawless precept is not common in this world. Look at the wars, look at the crimes, look at the fighting everywhere. So it is really uncommon, and let us rejoice at this thought, okay? And hopefully with that, we have mental happiness, rapture, and our body becomes tranquil, and we become calm and happy, and we can continue to be mindful on our virtue since we became a Buddhist, okay? Or maybe since the last 1 week when I took my precept again, or since this morning when I took my precept. Happy at that, okay? Hindrances suppressed, jhana factors arise in a single mind moment. The jhana is only accessed because the precept special qualities of untorn and so on is there's a lot of thinking involved. And the meaning of what is being untorn, unblotched is very profound. Precept is not black and white. I hope you understand that. There's a lot to learn, the meaning of the precepts. So the profundity of the special qualities of precept, or the qualities of the precepts of various sorts. Okay, so this is the precept. Then after that we'll do dana, and we'll do devas. That one is quite interesting. Okay, so let us practice first. As I said, the Buddha advised before we do this, we need to develop our 5 qualities of spiritual qualities of faith, of energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Okay. So let us sit upright. Close our eyes. So for the next 45 minutes or so, we shall be practicing 3 out of the 6 recollections that the Buddha taught Mahanama, the layperson. So let us put aside all the thoughts we have, all the conceptualized thoughts of the past and the future. Just put aside. Let us be committed to be fully present here and now. And let us begin by relaxing ourselves, for there are times when the mind is strained and the body is strained and we are not conscious of it. For the mind is preoccupied with so many things. So we relax the body systematically, starting from the top of our heads. Feel the gross sensation on the skin of our head, without judging, without controlling. Just feel the sensation. Particularly, let us focus on the softness and the flowing sensation of the skin. Feel the muscles flowing down to our forehead, allowing all the creases at our forehead to subside as the muscles lose their tone and relax themselves. In between the eyebrows especially, allow the eyebrows to sag and relax. And at the sides of the head, at our temples, let the muscles here soften and flow like melted ice, flowing down to our cheeks, and the muscles around the eyes. Sometimes, when we don't sleep well, the eyes cringed without ourselves knowing, tightness around the eyes. Let them all melt away. And feel the muscles at the back of our head melting and flowing like the snow in the high mountains during summertime, flowing down like streams at the back, at the sides, at the front of our faces, allowing the cheek and the jaw to relax. And let the muscles flow at our neck, to the shoulders, such that the neck bones recoil and become natural, slightly curved, upright. And feel the muscles on our shoulders, the tension release, and they melt and flow downwards to the sides of on our arms. Allow the weights of our arms to gravitate by the nature of gravity. Feel the muscles flowing all the way to the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, and the hands. Let the muscles flow and melt, drip and drape along. And the muscles on our chest and our back relaxing, releasing the tension, allowing the lungs to breathe on its own without any form of oppression whatsoever. Totally natural, breathing on its own reflex. There is no controller, no participant, no judge, just an observer, humble, like a student, observing the nature of the body. Feel the muscles flowing to our abdomen, resting. All the organs, like cushions in the cabinet, stacked, resting on the base of the abdomen, the center of our gravity. Excuse me. The muscles around our pelvis, relaxed and soft. Muscles on our thighs, flowing. Knees, muscles in our calves, soft, supple, melting almost all the way to the floors, as if the whole body is plastered onto the seat. May the body be tranquil and blissful, and the mind at our heart, in the center of the chest, peaceful, like a pool of forest water. When all the breezes have stopped, there are no ripples, like a mirror reflecting the clouds, the birds, the moon and the sun, mirroring without controlling, without participation. That's the state of the mind of a meditator. Bring the mind's attention to the breath in front of our nostrils, above the upper lip. As always, the meditator is only an observer, a disciple of nature. And here, nature is the in and out breath. The in and out breath is our teacher, is the conduit to the Buddha. As a disciple, we attentively observe the in-breath and the out-breath. With wisdom, we know an in-breath is an in-breath, an out-breath is an out-breath. With keen mindfulness, we discern the full extent of the in-breath, the full extent of the out-breath, without controlling, without participating, just merely observing a natural reflex of breathing in front of the nostrils, without following the breath into the body or out into space, just observing the breath in front of the nostrils, like an attentive guard of the gate to the castle, keenly aware of every person walking through the gate, in and out, without judging, without participating, just observing in-breath, out-breath, continuously. Knowing that this is the conduit to the triple gem, for the Buddha practiced anapanasati. With faith, let the mind stay with the breath consistently, relentlessly, moment to moment, throughout the breath. That is energetic mindfulness. Let the mind stay with the breath continuously, and let the mind sink in with concentration. When the mind wanders, ask ourselves, where's the breath? And the mind comes back to the breath. That is wisdom. The faith and wisdom are balanced. Energy and concentration are balanced. Mindfulness on the breath, moment to moment, always present. When the mind is too keen, agitation may happen. Let the mind relax a bit and be still. When the mind is still without effort, wandering thoughts and dreaminess may come in. Ask ourselves, where's the breath? And revitalize the energy. That is how we stay mindful on the breath, like a cyclist riding on a bicycle, the eyes cast to the distant breath, where the faith, wisdom, effort and concentration are balanced, and the mindfulness on the breath persistent. The cyclists ride on and on and on, in and out breath. Gently, let us change the subject of our mindfulness. Recall, since we have taken refuge in the Dhamma, the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, we tried our best to keep the precepts. And for the most part, our precepts are flawless, untorn. We live a life of virtue, clean, uncorrupt. Our virtues untorn, unblemished, unblotched, flawless. We are a good student of the Buddha. May the heart rejoice at this virtue of ours. May the body be filled with pleasure at these virtues of ours. We might not be as perfect as a noble one, but we are a virtuous Buddha's disciple. Let the mind be filled with joy on this thought. And gently, at our own time, we may open our eyes. I hope you remember this on your deathbed, okay? And recognizing we are not perfect and accepting that, but as much as possible from today, we do our best again, okay, at keeping the precepts. Next, we talk about generosity, okay? So how to practice meditation on generosity? So a person who would like to practice generosity is someone who is naturally devoted to generosity, and he constantly have a constant act of giving and sharing. So I believe many of you here are, every time there's a gathering here, many of you will cook and will bring, if it's not generosity, what is that? Okay? And many of you offered to the new building, and in your own life and space outside of maybe this place, you must have done a lot of things out of generosity. And as I mentioned, just as virtue, nobody is perfect. So let's not look at the two bad bricks. Let's think of ourselves in terms of our generosity. But there's another alternative here, introduced in the Visuddhimagga. You can also start from today, make a determination. From now on, when there is anyone present to receive, I shall not eat even a single mouthful without having given a gift. And on that day, he should make a dana by sharing according to his means with those with distinguished qualities, and he apprehends the sign. Apprehends the sign means you use a handphone and capture an image. But of course, in ancient time, they don't have smartphone or camera. They use the eye to remember the image of the dana. So now it's the rain seasons. The Katina is coming in a month or two, in a few months' time. So then we can offer dana. Anyway, now it's 𝐿𝑒𝐵𝒉, right? Ulaanbaatar. Ulaanbaatar is also a season of generosity. Yeah? People focus on hungry ghosts as if they are only out this period. Actually, they are always around. In ancient time, the Hokkiens came to this part of the world, and then there were a lot of coolies, from Canton, but also, from the southern Chinese. They don't have family and they pass away, so they just use this Ulaanbaatar, which is a traditional festival in China, to give offerings to the ghosts. Because, in southern Chinese, we worship ancestors, and these people don't have offsprings to worship them, to pay respect to them. So everybody come together and then pay tribute to them. If this is not generosity, I don't know what is, okay? Can ghosts eat anything we offer? Maybe if we have psychic power, we can see, okay? At the base of the tree, and then you put some oranges, they may go and try to eat it. And maybe they are so hungry, they don't say thank you, or they don't feel grateful. But just like we feed cats also, they never say thank you. But sometimes some of the cats also say thank you by rubbing against our legs. But let's say the hungry ghosts to eat, that is generosity. It may not mean anything to you, but to them that is so important, to hungry ghosts. So anyway, we can offer to beings of distinguished qualities because there is Sangha in Singapore. And some of you may know, there's a charity known as Aranya Sangha Dana Fellowship. It's to support the Sangha living in the community. Okay, so do support them. So if we want to practice generosity, either we have a habit of being generous, like many of you here are, or make a determination to be generous, or being generous during Katina. Okay, then we offer, then we take handphone and take photos and remember. Okay, then we go into solitary retreat and recollect the special qualities of being free from miserliness. So what is these special qualities? From the sutta, it is truly my good fortune and gain that in a population obsessed by the stain of miserliness, I dwell at home with a mind devoid of the stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. So the population here sometimes is translated as a generation. In the Visuddhimagga, it means it's a arising of beings. Okay, there are so many beings here, and all of them are obsessed or stained by miserliness, avarice. But a noble disciple such as the stream enterer has no avarice, no miserliness. We may not be a noble disciple, but when we are giving, there is no avarice in our heart. So let us also think like that. So when we are generous, we are not miserly. And if you compare with most people in this world, we are quite generous, okay? We are not very stingy. Singapore is quite generous. Anyway, it's not just Singapore. Buddhists everywhere are very generous. But of course, not just Buddhists. So people of different religions, as long as it's a spiritual tradition, they tend to be very generous, and we are rejoicing in those as well. But for this practice, we reflect on our generosity. Okay? Then the hindrances suppressed, excess concentration happen because of profundity of the generosity special qualities, or on reflecting the generosity's qualities of the various sorts. So here I'd like you to recall that we have offered flowers, fruits, water, incense, and light just now. It was passed around, okay? So somebody must have purchased this, and we know it's Buddhist fellowship. And who contributed to Buddhist fellowship? Some of you here. But those of you who might not have contributed, you might have contributed in the past. So all this contributed to this moment of dana. Okay? So we are the donors of this dana to, of all people, the Buddha. Okay? So you can recall this as the sign. You can think of the apple. Then you can consider, it is truly my good fortune, with the image of the apple in your eye, and gain that in a population obsessed by stain of miserliness, we dwell at home with a mind devoid of stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. The apple in your mind. But some of you may not be inspired by this apple, but you might have been a volunteer, I was looking at Joyce sitting there, active volunteer. Evelyn, always cook for us. And Paul, I saw him just now, so generous as a GP in Punggol area, caring for so many people. Volunteer his time at Grace Lodge, the nursing home, and Brother Andrew, helped, offered so much to my sister when she's trying to set up her own business. And so many of you must have offered to the building of our new center, and you have. I mean, I just do not know. You know, huh? So let us take that as the image, okay? So let us close our eyes again. Okay? So let us relax ourselves again and just have an image of the dana that is significant. There must be so many. When we give our parents, our family, our children, our spouses, our friends, or at work, to our colleagues, to our supervisors, to our subordinates, to the strangers in the hawker centers selling tissue papers. Sometimes we give to charities that they come and sell flags. Sometimes we offer through giving.sg money. And of course, in Buddhist fellowship, we help out either as a volunteer or as a donor. There are so many things. And we have met so many good monks that have passed by through Singapore. And in our own way, within our means, we offered robes, fruits, food, and all of the requisites in the form of currency, the money. So with this image in our mind, specific to ourselves, let us reflect. It is truly my good fortune and gain that in a population obsessed by the stain of miserliness, I dwell at home with a mind devoid of the stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. May the mind be filled with joy and rapture, for this is the teaching of the Buddha, generosity. And I have lived up to the teaching of the Buddha by being generous, charitable, kind and caring. Through my generosity, I have supported the Sangha and the teachings of the Dhamma, the Buddha Sasana. And with this joy, may the body becomes tranquil, and may the body be filled with bliss. And may this bliss support the concentration that is based on the qualities of generosity in me. It is truly my good fortune and gain that in a population obsessed by the stain of miserliness, I dwell at home with a mind devoid of the stain of miserliness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, devoted to charity, delighting in giving and sharing. May the mind be filled with joy filled with rapture, and the body tranquil and blissful, and the hindrances suppressed, and the 5 faculties balanced. May I rejoice in all my acts of generosity. May I not forget this on the last breath of my life. I have done good by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Truly my good fortune, my gain, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in relinquishment, letting go, devoted to charity, giving, sharing, open-hearted, open-handed. And gently, at our own time, we may open our eyes. I hope you understand that meditation need not be sitting, okay? Sometimes after you give something or you share something, for the moment your mind is so inspired by the generosity, that moment you can attain to excess concentration as well. And perhaps you may have a glimpse that is how some of the disciples during Buddha's time can attain to enlightenment just by a short moment. Because the mind is very fast. You don't have to be sitting in a forest until enlightenment. Sometimes you're so inspired by the generosity, and then you see everybody generous. You're so happy for that. That's mudita. That is for Brahma Vihara. So we can practice meditation moment to moment, like how the Buddha said, you dwell at home in a crowded house with kids. Then you can reflect that you've been generous, not miserly. Your life is full of doing charitable things. Okay, the last one, we are going to practice deities. Those who would want to practice the recollection of deities, they should possess qualities of faith, etc. Faith, etc. If you remember the sutta we taught just now, there are 5 qualities that are very obvious in Devas: faith, virtues, knowledge, generosity, and wisdom. Okay, so these 5. So especially if somebody who is a stream winner, so these qualities are evoked by means of a noble path. But similarly, we are not stream winner also can, we at least, we do have some faith, some generosity, some Sila, some knowledge, some wisdom, etc. So, okay, and he should go into a solitary retreat and recollect his own special qualities of faith, etc., with deities standing as witnesses as follows. There are Devas ruled by the 4 great kings: Tawatingsa Devas, Yama Devas, Tusita Devas, Devas who delight in creation, Devas who control what is created by others, Devas of Brahma's retinue, and Devas still higher than these. There exists in me too such faith as those deities possessed, because of which, when they passed away here, they were reborn there. there exists in me too such virtuous behavior, such learning, such generosity, such wisdom as those deities possessed, because of which, when they passed away here, they were reborn here. In the commentary text, he recollects his own special qualities, making the deities stand as witnesses. So these deities standing as witnesses is not found in this sutta, but is in the commentary text. And in Visuddhimagga, it talks of two stages. The first stage is recollects the special qualities of faith, virtues, learning, generosity, and wisdom of the deities. So you can recall the various devas that you have seen. So, of course, we have not seen, but maybe some of us here have, okay? The devas, we can recall that they are there because they are very, what I heard from my teacher is that if you're among devas, they have no jealousy. Their mind is very wholesome. They're always out to send loving kindness and have a lot of compassion for beings of the world. And they're very harmonious, okay? And they are very pure in their precepts. And they are very wise. And many of them have divine eyes, divine ears, Deva eyes, Deva ears. Okay? So they've got, and if they want to practice concentration, they can attain samadhi easily because their mind is very pure. Okay, just take it from me, okay? But this is also described in the sutta. So, excuse me, we recall the special qualities of these in the devas. The next phase, I suppose this is for stream winner, but surely we do have some, faith, virtues, learning, generosity, and wisdom. Okay, in ourselves, and the hindrances are suppressed, excess concentration because of the profundity of these special qualities. So the object of this meditation are the special qualities that is found in the devas, and we also have it. And may the devas be our witness. Okay, so that is how a noble disciple dwell, and we are not noble disciple, but we can also try. Okay. So these 6 recollections succeed only in the noble disciples because the special qualities of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha are evident to them. They possess virtue with special qualities of untornness, generosity, free from miserliness, special qualities of faith, virtues, learning, generosity, and wisdom, similar to those of the devas. Now let us practice, but before that, let us read a few passages from Vimana Vatu. This is from the Khuddaka Nikaya. And that picture, since we have not seen the Deva, so we can use what is painted in a Thai temple. Okay, but if you go to Dunhuang, Mo Gao Ku, you can also see a lot of Devas. They look very similar. If you go to all the ancient temples in Cambodia, you go to Borobudur, okay, you can also see the Devas in their various ways. But of course, if you go to Europe, you may see the angels, okay, in that certain way. So I suppose it's very hard to describe, but we can say that they are all very slim, okay, very youthful looking. They are very bright. Or maybe that's why in Western culture, the angels wear white because it's very bright. And then there's a halo. And then in the Asian culture, they are also flying. And then there are a lot of halo around them. So they're all very bright and they can fly. So this Vimana Vatu is very interesting. It's a conversation of Mahamoggallana with the Devas. Okay, so, okay, not much time. Let me just read a few. So this is called the lamp mentioned. Mahamoggallana asks, Devata, your beauty shines in all directions like the bright star named 𝐿𝑠𝑎𝑑𝑖. What are the meritorious deeds you have done to gain this happiness? Devata, the pure radiance of your body and limbs is stainless and shines in all directions. What kind of meritorious action did you do when you were in the human world to have gained this beauty that shines in all directions and have earned all these wonderful things? The Devata, delighted at being questioned by Arahant Moggallana, gladly explained what she had done that resulted in such great happiness. The Devata, in my previous life, I was a woman in the human world. One night, there was a certain area which was very dark. People desperately needed light there. I lighted the area with a lamp. Now I know for certain if someone provides lamps to light a dark area, that person is reborn in the heavenly mansion called Jyoti Rasa. There are beautiful flowers there like white lotuses. Because of this meritorious deed, I have been born as a very beautiful Devata and enjoy all the wonderful things that delight my heart. That is why the pure radiance of my body and limbs is stainless and shines in all directions. Great Bhante, that is the meritorious action I did to have such a beautiful body that shines in all directions. So I suppose in a room where everybody is reading, you turn on the light for them. You can become a Deva, as a result of this. Okay. Or if you could be an electrician, fixing lights. Okay. Or those of you who volunteer at Firefly Mission, you must have, give a lot of light in the form of education, right? Another one is also very interesting. I chose a few quite interesting ones. Bhante Moggallana asked, Dear Devata, your mansion is way up in the sky and spreads over 120 kilometers. Pillars of beryl and other gemstones and 700 pinnacled buildings are in your estate. It is very beautiful inside the mansion. You drink and eat and enjoy the sweetness of heavenly food. Guitars play sweet music. You have the 5 kinds of sensual pleasures. Devatas dance for you, wearing gold jewelry. What are the meritorious deeds that led to this happiness? Tell me, Devata, what kind of meritorious action did you do when you were in the human world to have gained this beauty that shines in all directions and to have earned all these wonderful things? The Devata, delighted at being questioned by Arahant Moggallana, gladly explained what she had done that resulted in such great happiness. Wise people, understanding their own well-being, should do meritorious deeds. The Supreme Buddha has completed the journey of the right path. Offerings that were given to such Buddhas generate great food. Fortunately for me, one day the Supreme Buddha visited my village after coming out of a forest. My mind gained confidence in the Buddha. That is how I came to this Tawatingsa heaven. Because of this meritorious deed, I have been born as a very beautiful Devata and enjoy all the wonderful things that delight my heart. Great Bhante, that was a meritorious action I did to have such a beautiful body which shines in all directions. When you saw this Buddha image, do you feel a strong sense of faith in the Buddha? If you do, this can make you be reborn in the heaven. From this, from the Kuttaka Nikaya. This one, I will just, I think I'll just share on the merit that this Deva did. I have a lifespan of 1,000 heavenly years. When I was in the human world, I spoke good words and lived with a clean and happy mind. Those were the only meritorious deeds. So as long as you speak good words, and your life is clean and happy and with a happy mind. So it is possible that many among us, I don't know about you, but in my work I do encounter a lot of people living in everywhere. They may not be Buddhist, or they may be simple Buddhists, just offer during 𝐏𝐸𝐻𝐷𝐺𝑖𝑒, and then they ancestor worship, they pray to Guan Yin. But their mind is very good. Okay? Simple mind, happy mind. They can be reborn as Deva as well. Okay? This one is also interesting. I supported my own mother and father and became a Deva. Many of you here must have done that. So do recall that these are the things that will bring you to the heavenly realm. Next one is, this is very interesting. Some flowers that have been offered to the stupa of the Supreme Buddha have been scattered here and there. I arranged those flowers beautifully while recollecting the great qualities of the Buddha. So by just picking out the flowers and arranged nicely, became a Deva as a result. But you know, I have explained dependent origin before. We have done so many things in our life, good and bad. Okay? What caused the next life depends on what came up to our mind. It is very hard to control. But how the Deva knows is, as a Deva, they recall just before they die, this was the image before that birth. So they know this is the karma that results in this. So for us, we do not know what will ripen. We just have to do a lot of good deeds. And good deeds, let it stick in our mind, okay? Post everywhere on social media, and it's everywhere, okay? And stick to our mind. But then again, there are Devas who did not do any particular one. It's just that they lead a very pure life, okay? This is also very interesting. It is a frog that was killed by a boy who was looking after his cows. The boy was listening to the Buddha's teachings, and he stepped on this frog, and the frog died. And the frog said that, for a brief moment, my mind was very pleased in hearing your voice. This frog was talking to the Buddha, okay? This Deva was talking to the Buddha. He said that my mind was very pleased in hearing your voice. But now, look at my psychic powers, fame and beautiful body that I have earned from that very small act of merit. So this shows that even an animal, so if you keep a fish or a turtle or a rabbit or a cat or a dog, you chant or you play the YouTube of a teacher's Dhamma talk and force your cat to sit with you. Listen. Yeah, so even the inspiration from the Buddha's image or the sound of the Buddha. So I don't know whether YouTube works or not, but the sound of the Buddha must be quite special even to the animals. But also in the presence of the Buddha, Buddha must have sent loving kindness to all the beings around him. So a frog can also become a Deva. Okay, let's practice. Okay. So similarly, let us close our eyes. So recalling the qualities of the Deva. There are Devas in the four great king realm. We might not know how they look like, but it was described in the Suttas that some of the Devas live on trees, some of them are flying in the low sky, or living on earth, the earthbound Devas. We do not know how they look, but we know that they must have appeared bright, for it's described across humanity as brightness. And in this four great king realm, there are Garudas, there are Nagas, and many other Devas. And above the four great king realms is Tower Tingsa heaven, presided or reigned by Lord Sakka, the king of the Devas. We know from the scriptures, Sakka is a stream enterer. He's a protector of the Dhamma. He's surrounded by his many other Devas, his wives, his children, and many other Devas in the court of Lord Sakka, harmonious, beautiful, youthful, radiant, full of loving kindness and compassion, sending their metta and karuna onto human realm, supporting our minds almost all the time. And even higher, the Yama Devas and the Tusita Devas. The Tusita Devas, where all the Bodhisattvas will live before they come to the human realm again. Perhaps it's because of these Devas that through the centuries we have conceived of Bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara, Guanshi-yin-Pusa, of Samantabhadra, Pusa, Manjushri Bodhisattva, Wenshu-Pusa, and so many beautiful beings, always shining their love and compassion to the human realms. Many of them has full faith in the Dhamma, in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Charitable and generous, deep knowledge of the Dhamma. For it was between Guan Yin and Sariputta conversation that the Heart Sutra was spoken. All the Devas, full of faith, virtues, knowledge, generosity, and deep wisdom. And even higher than the Tusita are the Brahma realms. Many of them are enlightened. The Arya Sangha, some of them are stream enterer, some once returner, and there are the non-returner and the Arahants in the heavenly realms, full of faith, virtues, knowledge, generosity, and wisdom. These are the Devas who protect us, love us, have compassion for us. And in my mind, I have cultivated faith in the Triple Gem. I have taken and did my best in keeping the 5 precepts. I've done my best in acquiring knowledge based on the teachings of the Buddha. And I practice generosity frequently, open-handedly. And I have some wisdom. May the Devas bear witness to this. And gently, at our own time, let us open our eyes. So this completes the series of meditation subjects. It's a very interesting journey for me because I don't practice them, although the teacher sometimes speak of them, and when she spoke about it, I practice with the eyes closed and just follow. And And I try to do the research, and then share with everybody. My understanding is the basics of meditation is the same. It's about wholesome mind, mindful on a concept or a subject taught by the Buddha. And if the mind is consistent in this mindfulness, hindrances can be suppressed and then samadhi can happen. So depend on the object, you can either attain to excess concentration or deep into jhana. Okay. So these are the 6 recollections that we've covered this year, and that ends the series. Next month, I think I'll be talking about Abhidhamma, but from a meditator's perspective. How Abhidhamma is so important to meditation. And yeah. Are there any questions? I think we have run out of time. Okay.
I think we can still go for 1 or 2 questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, Doc, for the very interesting talk. And my question might sound a bit skeptical, but I want to assure you that it's not. So just to assure you first, have anything been done to actually do an event that you can send to the scientific community to let them prove to them that this sort of deities exist? I mean, the scientific authorities come and sort of like what they do for a lot of Buddhist teachings and monitor the mind. You say, well, yeah, the deities exist. Or if this has not been done, has there any sort of anecdotal kind of incident to sort of show the world that even Muslims, non-Buddhists, also believe that there is deities? Or even Buddhists who is skeptical also will believe that there's deities. I'm not trying to be skeptical. It's just trying to merge the two, the scientific community with the spiritual community. That's what I'm trying to do.
I suppose scientifically it is impossible to prove anything that to prove that they don't exist. Okay, it's impossible to prove because you don't see doesn't mean they don't exist. And if you have monitored over millions of years, never occurred to the human realm, doesn't mean they don't exist also. So it's impossible to prove that they don't exist. But to prove that they exist, we have to create a hypothesis. What shows that they exist? When you see lights in the tree, does it mean it's Deva? If you have unexplained visions of people when you're dying, is that your hallucination or is that Devas? And when things move by themselves, is that ghosts or what? Okay, and if the scientific community cannot prove that, cannot explain why that thing moved, can they conclude that there is poltergeist or ghosts or Devas? It's very hard. So I must say, it's very hard to prove either way. And maybe that's why it's important that for us to have faith. Faith is necessary, despite all the science in the world, because there are always things that's very hard to prove or to prove non-existent, and we need to have that. That's the best I can say. But the Buddhist way of scientific procedure is a bit different. We don't do measurement and objective measurement and so on. Our objectivity lies in samadhi. When the hindrances are suppressed, the mind is unbiased. We can say that the mind is objective. And let this objective mind observe. Yeah. And with that objective mind, like how the Buddha and his disciples have done, they have seen Devas.
Okay. Maybe one more question. One last question before we close for today. Oh, okay, sister.
Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Ng. Yes, so I mean, I just want to share what I find helpful from this meditation. I think it's helpful that you establish the purpose, right? I mean, to encourage us to practice every day, there must be an objective and outcome that everybody can be looked forward to. So I think it's helpful that you said that it's achieving the wholesome mind, and then ultimately that everybody should have this opportunity to attain the state, right? So I think that's very encouraging. And I also find that it's very helpful that developing faith, visualizing all the devas, right? All our collection of all our good virtues, everything that we have done right, as well as the good qualities of all the devas. So I also find that was very helpful, right? It set the motivation and the intention. So my question is then, what about, so during the meditation process, because sometimes during the course of the day, sometimes we have afflictions, right? We are impatient and all that. So how do we address that in the meditation process? Because sometimes we are not aware, and it's only when we are doing our meditation practice that we caught ourselves that, you know, actually I wasn't aware that I had been impatient. But, and it was actually during the meditation process that then we realized that maybe we have been impatient or have practiced some non-virtues. So how does that come into the whole meditation process? Thank you.
Thank you for the excellent question. I've also been thinking about it. You mentioned, if you recall, I mentioned about concepts. A lot of us, day to day, we are preoccupied with conceptual ideas like, oh, I need to do the account. I need to finish the lecture. Oh, I need to reply somebody. Oh, what if he knows he's going to be angry? Or wonder what he thinks, you know. We are always having this concept. Where does this concept come about? It's because we are trying our best to do good. It's all related to karma. It's related to we want to do good deeds. We want to help people. But as we help people along, you know, or not just others, but also ourselves, we want to make a living. Because of that, we have to live within the conventions, rules and conventions. Concepts are created by thinking, by science, by society, by culture, by language, and so on. So we have those things. So those are, in a way, very worldly stuff. But it is through the worldliness that we navigate and keep the precepts, practice generosity, and also through concepts such as the breath, kasina, devas. Devas are 5 aggregates, nothing very much, nothing special. But we have this concept and we can practice bhavana. So concepts are important for us to practice the Eightfold Path. But ultimately, wisdom comes not from analyzing the concepts, because concepts are perceptions and conventions. Wisdom comes from analyzing what is behind the concepts is just these 5 aggregates, doing various things, creating all these images. Okay, so then we observe the 5 aggregates and their causes, and then we observe that even the raw form of everything, which is just these 5 aggregates and their causes, and how they cause each other, and they themselves fall apart all the time, moment to moment. That's when we actually start to realize deeper and deeper insights into the nature of the true nature of the world. But concepts still are important means to an end. It's also through concept that we break precepts, that we practice miserliness and distract ourselves from bhavana. So concepts is a double-edged sword. When we are dealing with worldly stuff, all the concepts and the perceptions of them will trigger our defilements naturally. When there are defilements, a beautiful concept we have greed, an ugly concept we have anger or hatred. It's very natural. It's a human nature. So when that happens, we won't be having mindfulness. Okay. So you can practice mindful all the time throughout the concept, but the concepts are always bombarding us, left, right, and center, and sometimes we have to act very fast. As long as we are not fully enlightened, the defilements are there, they will arise. So if the question is how to let the defilements not arise, one way is don't deal with the world at all. But if you don't deal with the world well, you cannot practice precept, you cannot practice generosity, you cannot practice bhavana. So you have to deal with the world, okay? So if you deal with the world, next best is try to be mindful all the time. It is as if, okay, try to be mindful all the time, of course. It is something we will strive. So it is not black or white. You're mindful, not mindful. It is mindfulness 20% of the time, 30% of the time, 60% of the time. Then there are the corollary of 30%, 50%, 60%, 70%, you're not mindful. Then I would say, I will recall Ajahn Brahm's story of the 2 bad bricks. It's impossible for us to be mindful all the time because of the fact that we are not fully enlightened. The best is to be fully enlightened as an arahant. That's why the Buddha's teachings is you don't rest on your laurels as if you're doing a lot of wholesome, then that's good enough. Because as long as there's defilements, there's always a route for us to do bad deeds. And always there's a chance that we die with the image of the bad deed in mind rather than the good deed in mind. So I might not have answered your question, but this is how I will answer your question. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. Let's say 3 sadhu to Dr. Ng for this informative and useful speech for today. Sadhu, sadhu,
Thank you.
sadhu. So let us do